You tell me what else is on the menu, please, sir, for today.
This is a Crosley model 52TA AM radio from 1941. This is the kind of shape it's in. Like, not terrible. Is that the original plug from 1941? There's tubes in it, so we're gonna see about running this thing. These are all original, authentic, stupid guy screws. That's the little loop antenna. It's got 3 bolts on the bottom of it that hold the chassis in. The little celluloid lens thing is looking so hot. It's got a little crack on the top. There's the chassis. The speaker looks perfect. That's cool. The dial's crooked because the tuning condenser is sitting in there crooked. I don't know what that's all about, but it's all here. Is that copper? I heard these chassis are copper plated. No oxidation. And someone's been here. Big surprise. 1941 radio. It's been worked on before. They've replaced a few capacitors. There's still some waxies in here. So anyway, nothing in here is just burnt shit or anything. Look at that solder job, man. That's not original. It's just barely sitting there. Well, let's test it. This is powered off of an isolation transformer, and it's going through a 40-watt light bulb. Ooh, look at the light bulb lighting up, but it's not staying all the way lit, so that's nice. Pretty well off. Can you even see it going at all? Pilot light's lit. Oh, she's alive. Look at it. It buzzes. Ooh, that tube's original. Scan the band. That doesn't really sound good, does it? Kind of sounds like it's broken, right? Well, I thought so too. But then I figured out that these shitty lights I'm using all over the place in here are the real problem. If I turn them off, the noise changes. It's a lot quieter. Less buzzing. Of course, I still have some buzzing in here because this place has got noise through the roof. But I think this radio works. I don't know what that just was. Get an antenna wire hooked up to it and see if I can pick anything up with it. That should work. Yeah, jack shit. Right here I can pick up some kind of noises. I don't know if it's a station or if it's just some, device somewhere in the background. But yeah, it's totally insensitive. Listen when I turn the lights back on. So that's nice and noisy. I don't know if it running on low voltage has anything to do with it, but man, this bulb's barely lit. This radio is not rated more than, 30 watts or something like that? 35 watts. So, I don't know about you, but to me that getter doesn't look so great. It's kind of clearish looking, a little pale. I don't know, that tube might be getting gassy. But like, none of the tubes are open filament or anything. There are 2 metal tubes here, so I have no idea what's up with those guys. But, like, my isolation transformer runs a little hot. It's like 128 volts or something, so I don't know if I want to run it without the bulb. I really need a less noisy environment to take this thing to, or maybe a real antenna and not just hooked up to my solder. But when I unhook it from the solder, it doesn't change anything. See what I'm saying? Like, this radio doesn't seem very sensitive to me. Some of the wires in this thing are rubber and they're disintegrating, especially this one that leads to the antenna over here. Look at it, it's just crumbling to pieces. You gotta watch out for that. So based on these being like PVC insulation, that is not original. Even if I didn't know by looking at the capacitor that it wasn't from 1941, I don't think it's going to make all the difference in the world if I change a few capacitors, but I doubt it's going to break the radio worse if I'm careful. So I believe I'll switch some of these out, because I mean, you got original waxies here, and the filter cap is like 50 years old probably, so maybe it's not doing so great. This crooked dial situation kind of looks like the string's been pulling on it in that direction for so long that these little rubber insulating things that mount it down, you know, gave way enough that it could sit there, and then they turned to stone. So now it's stuck like that unless I replace those pieces of rubber. Sprag. Well, let's see what difference it makes when I switch a few capacitors. This is a 50 and 30 capacitor here. Darlington, South Carolina. That's a cool town name. Holy cold solder, burnt face man. These are capacitors. Use the J-hook method. Except over here, that's the J-hand method. This is a model 52TA, and that makes it a chassis number 74. This is the schematic for chassis number 74, and we got our filter caps right here, and they're both 15 microfarads. So I think they might have oversized those capacitors just a little bit. Over here we have the parts list, and sure enough, here's our two electrolytics, 15 microfarads, not 50 and 30. I don't know if the rectifier tube's very happy about those being in there, so I'm going to change them with the right size now. It turns out I don't have no 15 microfarad capacitors. They're delayed in shipment because of the blizzard, so I could wait. Or I could install these 22s. It's interesting, I stuck the capacitor on the component tester and it shows as a transistor. Does that mean it's bad? That's pretty funny. If I unhook one of them and test it again, what does it do with just one capacitor on there? 64 microfarads. Now, why would it say that when it's actually reading a 50? I actually know the answer to that question thanks to Mr. Carlson. Leaky capacitors test higher because the leakage. So our 30 and 50 have become 42 and 64. That's a sure sign that this is leaky. Or that it's an overachiever, but I don't know. I'm a little pessimistic about it because it's made out of cardboard. This cap is supposed to read 22 nanofarads, and it reads 38. We knew this one was leaky. Look at it, it's made out of paper. This one's 3.3 nanofarads. Every one of them reads way higher than they're supposed to. The extent of the testing I'm going to do on these capacitors. For now, we're just going to accept that these are 50 years old or more and that they're bad. About an experiment then. We'll put these capacitors on jumper leads connected where the old one was, and we'll just see what it does. Yeah, no change. It's the same. Oh, the noise. Yeah, it sounds like shit, but it's alive. Man, look. When I probe around in here, I get all kind of stuff happening. Homie really manhandled these capacitors when he installed them. Look at that one's cracked on the side. This one over here is cracked right there. Aren't you supposed to be careful not to do that? Every one of these is broken. Well, there's the electrolytics replaced with a couple of 22 microfarad Luther caps. With the labels facing away from us, of course. So, that's the recap finished. About this whole dial not being centered business. You probably could tell looking at it like this. The tuning condenser is sitting in there all crooked. Because its little rubber grommet standoff things are all fucked. They're hard as a rock. They've been pulled on for the last 75 years by this string. And, you know, it's just not been kind to me. That's been rubbing right there. It's actually trying to shear the thing. And there never was another pointer over here. You look really closely at it, you see? As far as I can tell, there never was a second pointer. So it just never pointed to the meters. See it a little better this way. how this works. So I just have 3 screws holding up the condenser, 2 wires attaching it there and there, and this string, and I should be able to remove it and see about replacing the grommets to get it to sit straight. There's the standoffs. There's the tuning condenser chilling out. It seems like these are supposed to insulate. Their job is to insulate the tuning condenser from the chassis. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a wire down here that connects to the tuning condenser, and it ain't ground, so it stands to reason that the entire condenser is not supposed to be grounded, and it isn't supposed to be dragging on this little faceplate thing, which it was dragging on. I have these little 1/4-inch rubber grommets that, well, they fit the little studs perfectly. See? So maybe those will work. Well, not exactly. These little things bump into each other when they're too far apart, so I need to shave a little bit off of the bottom one to make them squeeze the little grommets. So now I've taken the Dremel to them and I've ground them down a little bit. See? They're shorter and more jagged. Now it sits nice and solid and it's properly insulated. I think that the grommets were insulating before, but this was dragging on the grounded dial face and it wasn't supposed to. That body of the tuning condenser is connected to the antenna loop. All fixed. No more goofy, weird offset dial thing. I wonder if that made any difference in the performance. Shocker. Sounds the same. Nothing happens when I touch the condenser, so. Well, anyways, it looks better. If I can get away from all this noise for a few minutes, I might actually test this radio out. Got the signal generator going on over here. So you should hear a tone out of this radio, right? We do. We get a tone. We also get really cool heterodyne effect. You can see it does the cool heterodyne effect. So if I turn it in here, I've got the dial a little bit off, so it's sitting at 1,000, but really it's 900. Ignore that. It's quiet, and if I turn it off this band, it's louder. So it picks up. I have it coupled through a capacitor, straight to the antenna lead. It's coupled to the chassis using a capacitor. And I'm having to drive it with a crazy amount of power to get this. Look at this when I turn the voltage down. That's about 100 times what I really wish I'd have it on. And it ain't hearing it. Barely hearing it. Kind of. A little bit. At 1 volt, it's finally strong enough to actually quiet the radio down. This thing doesn't seem like it's very sensitive. I'm pretty sure if I took this out in the woods right now and tried to listen to anything with it, I wouldn't hear a peep. But it does work. We get our tone. But I guess it needs an alignment. Well, because we can, we're going to modulate the Chicken Dick song into this thing. Doesn't sound so great. Who knows how long it's been since the last time this radio played music. The first thing it plays when it wakes up is the Chicken Dick song. So there's the buzzing of the lights. There's the Chicken Dick station. 2.5 volt amplitude going into this thing. Yeah, the radio works about as good as a non-working radio. modulation. That's at 100% modulation right there. That's actually reasonable at 100% modulation. Turn amplitude down and see what happens. That's 1 volt. The lights are trying to take it out. Turning the lights on and off doesn't really make a difference. Ramp up the signal strength to 3 volts. It's much better. We definitely got some noise out of the speaker. Doesn't sound so great. It's got a little rattle to it. Alright, well, I'm gonna turn this off. That's it for now on this thing. We may eventually align it, restore the box and all that stuff, but we're not going to do that in this video. We're satisfied with hearing it play the Chicken Dick song, and I'm sure it's just as happy as we are.